We're standing here in Arran showground, and it's a wee bit like most of the fields we've got in the west of Scotland. It's come through a lot. The soil has been very vulnerable. It's been badly compacted. Think back to the high amount of rainfall we had last year. So what do? One option is to come through with a subsoiler or a sward lifter or an aerator. 3 different machines, and to that I would add the plough, because it in itself can actually undo a lot of damage. You'd have all seen it on your own farm, water stand lying. It's simply because there's been a degree of compaction, whether that comes from cattle or tractors. Think of the heavy loads we take of silage. On a silage field, you'll probably track it 9 times across the whole length of the field in a season. What we're going to use to sort it, this machine here is one of the sward lifters, and it's important to get the terminology right. A sward lifter does what it says, it lifts the sward, but it also is a means of helping to open up any compacted layer. They tend to be designed in a fairly similar fashion. We have a leading disc, and that in itself is important because that helps reduce the amount of drag that you're pulling through the ground. We then come into the working part of the machine, and this can either be a typical subsoiler type tine with wings, or in this case it's a more elongated, but still with the same idea. It's trying to get in below and open and crack up the soil. Most of them now have a self-leveler at the back, which also serves as a means to try and adjust the height to be sure you're working at the right height. This one here is an earth. It's working with a flat roller. Some have got spikes on the roller or lugs, and that actually helps to open up the topsoil as well a wee bit. Working depth is critical. I would say that far too many people try and go in too deep. They've read a wee bit about subsoilers, think they should be working at 16 to 18 inches, and reality is they're doing more harm than good, or they're not doing an awful lot of good at that depth. What we really should be working at is about 9-10 inches for a sward lifter. How do you assess that? Well, use a measuring tape and actually dig down after you've been through, but the guy in the machine should have a rough idea of what depth he needs to be in at. So that's in 9.5 inches, 10 inches. So that's the depth you should be working at. It also helps afterwards to go and grab a spade and dig down and see if the depth that you think you're working at is actual depth. You should also have dug down beforehand. Don't just assume because you see your neighbour out working with a sward lifter that you have the same problem. You might dig down and there's no issue, or you might dig down and it's a different problem. It might be a cow pan, 3 or 4 inches, or a car pan as it is in this case because it's been the show ground. But it might also be a wee bit deeper, and as a result of tractors or heavy machinery. And in that case you need to be trying to make sure you're down that wee bit deeper, but still looking for this 9-10 inches working depth for the machine.